My court case was Lemon versus Kurtzman, which was on the topic of religion. For a little bit of background information, there are two cases from Pennsylvania and Rhode Island that started in the appellate courts that were later combined and taken to the Supreme Court. So in 1968, Pennsylvania passed a law where the state was going to provide funding to private schools that would provide for salaries, textbooks, and materials for any secular subjects. And then in 1969, Rhode Island passed a law where the state was going to provide funding for teacher salaries in private schools. And these private schools were mainly religious Catholic schools. So this is covering the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, which is the government prohibiting the establishment of religion. So for the Pennsylvania case, the appellant was Alton J. Lemon, who was a parent of a student in the public schools in Pennsylvania and was also representing citizens and taxpayers. The appellee was David H. Kurtzman, who was the superintendent of public instruction of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And Alton Lemon was arguing that this new law in Pennsylvania was in violation of the First Amendment. The parties involved in the Rhode Island case were the citizens and taxpayers as the appellees, who were also arguing the same thing as Lemon, that this new law was in violation of the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, and the appellants were any state officials, teachers eligible for the salary supplement, and parents and children in church-related schools. So the disagreement was the same for both cases, arguing that Pennsylvania and Rhode Island's new laws were in violation of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. The Pennsylvania case was upheld and Rhode Island's case was overturned. So since there were two different decisions made on both of these cases, they were taken to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court's question that they had to answer was, do statutes that provide state funding for non-public, non-secular schools violate the establishment of the First Amendment? So the Supreme Court came up with a three-part test to avoid the violation of the Establishment Clause. So the laws must have a secular legislative purpose, the law's primary effect must not promote or inhibit religion, and it must not foster excessive government entanglement with religion. So after running these new laws in Pennsylvania and Rhode Island through this test, the Supreme Court concluded that there was no violation in parts 1 and 2, but there was in part 3 where they said that there was government entanglement with religion. So they concluded and answered that question by saying that both the new Pennsylvania and Rhode Island laws were unconstitutional under the religious clause of the First Amendment because of excessive entanglement with religion. So the impact of this decision was the creation of this three-part test, which is called the Lemon test, that is used to avoid violation of the Establishment Clause. And just to go over that again, the laws must have secular legislative purpose, the law's primary effect must not prohibit or inhibit religion, and it must not foster excessive government entanglement with religion. So for my thoughts and opinions, I would say that when you do run these new laws under the Lemon test, there was a violation of the First Amendment because of the government entanglement with religion, but that there are some problems with the Lemon test. I did a little bit more research on how they use the Lemon test today in the Supreme Court, and I found that there have been recent criticisms and issues that I do agree with regarding the test. So I found an article from the Arizona State Law Journal that explained that in the American Legion versus American Humanist Society case, the test would have held that a 90-foot cross on public lands memorializing soldiers who died in World War I violated the Establishment Clause. they ended up not using the lemon test, and it didn't apply to this case because the cross was a symbol of history, and so that just shows that the lemon test maybe can't always be used for every case regarding religion. I also think that from the point of view of the private schools in Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, that since they were getting funded from the state, that there would be lots of rules and requirements regarding what they could do with that money, that it might be difficult for them to keep the religious aspects a part of their school. So it maybe would be a better idea for them to not use that money. So I just was thinking about that point of view, and then the different problems that have come up with the lemon test in recent years and how they're starting to move away from the lemon test.